Yeah, this is not a popular topic, by the way. I was just talking to the last guy. This is not a fun nor popular topic.
Hey, welcome to Hedge Heads, where we discuss the commodity markets, hedging, and anything related to trading futures. Remember, the risk of loss in trading commodity interests can be substantial. These are opinions only and not trading advice. Well, no one knows where the market's going. We're not afraid to share some ideas. I'm Ryan Tunkseth. He's John Prishman. Well, John, I was thinking, we have not talked about your garden since, I don't know, episode 3. Well, since your garden left the office. I assume it's the greatest garden ever, so because you don't talk about it. That's the way crops work, right? If we don't talk about the crops, they're going great.
We had a weather problem. I'll send you a video, and I think the video will sum it up well.
We'll put that video on the Hedge Heads Twitter account. Do you want to explain what happened, or you have weather issues with the garden?
Multiple weather issues. Well, there's two things. The video will explain it happened twice, and then I planted things that look great in the winter and fun, and then not so practical. And turns out you should plant stuff that you actually want to eat, like potatoes and carrots, onions.
Sure.
And that's why people plant that stuff. And I also learned that I need to be a client of the farmers market. That's where I need to be. Let the professionals handle this. And then in the video we'll sum up how it ended.
So you don't have a green thumb, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's stuff still there. We'll see what's edible and what's not. But animals too, they're a problem. You name it. But I think you got to grow stuff that you're actually going to eat, not that looks cool on the seed package.
That's how you decided what to plant.
Yeah.
What about your watermelons?
They're behind. They're going to need about 4 months, and we're closing in on September, and we live in Minnesota. So I'm hopeful that they make it, but the odds aren't really with me with the weather. But it looks like I'm about 4 months out on those.
So did you hedge your garden?
Yeah. I hedged it. I bought puts, and it went to zero, and I'm gonna make money.
Nice. Yeah, and now you have money to spend at the farmers market, I guess.
Yes, and that's where that money belongs, with the professionals.
Yes, and getting food that you actually want to eat.
Yeah, and it's not like it's really far. It's 15, 20 yards from here?
Yeah, I mean, you probably have to take a solid 30 steps.
You got to cross a busy street. Wow. I mean, that's about as hard as it gets for. So That's where I think that I am. That's where the money's going to be going from here on out, I think.
I like it. You better make your grocery list when we're done with the podcast then, because the market's tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's... with that depressing news, let's maybe move to some more depressing news. Let's talk seasonals. There's actually silver linings in here, but let's talk seasonals on these grains because we still have a few weeks to go.
Yeah, the market did the old switcheroo. Friday, actually, the Pro Farmer Tour results came out, and it looked at that point, after the market was closed, impossible for the bean market, especially the bean market, to rally. And wouldn't you know it, the low was somewhere near the Sunday night opening, if I'm not mistaken. The markets like to do that. When it finally looks safe and it has to do something, it does the exact opposite. So it's reversed since those lows on Sunday night, which is also not uncommon to find, highs or lows on a Sunday night because it just hasn't been in rhythm with the market for years now, Sunday. And then we've come up, 3 days now in a row? Which is as good as this stuff has looked. And of course, you're going to have the technical guys and the Elliott wave your money goodbye guys. Everybody's going to be crying bottom here. Or I saw rounded bottom on Twitter. There's probably 3 blackbirds and a hanging man on the Japanese candlestick guy Twitter. Everybody's going to have their patterns that say bottom. But then the seasonals is what I tend to go off of. fun position, seasonals, general common sense. That's where I'm at. The seasonals are better for corn than they are for beans. We're entering one of the weaker times of the year for the bean season, obviously with the harvest pressure coming. The middle of September tends to be really bad, and then the good news is in the beginning of October is a very sharp seasonal up for soybeans. So the seasonals do turn. We do usually find a bottom in August or September, and I don't like the way it all came. If this is the bottom, very similar to last year, where you expect it to go a lot lower going into harvest, and it doesn't. It flattens out and just goes sideways. People were pretty excited, if I remember last year. I was pretty frustrated. I had a lot of corn puts on for guys, and we couldn't figure out why the market wasn't going down with harvest pressure. And it went sideways and held exactly where it started in the spring. Everybody saw that as a victory, didn't sell any corn, and stored it in the spring, and then we found our lows into spring. I hope that's not what's happening here, because we really need to go down to these levels, get that demand really revved up, so when you do need to sell it, that you have higher prices. A lot of people will argue these are low prices, and that's not untrue. But still, the seasons aren't great until October, especially for soybeans, specifically in mid-September. We have sold off a lot. We're due for a bounce. I think it's probably short covering, and the idea that it had to go down, and everybody was on board with that after the Pro Farmer Tour. And of course, it did the old switcheroo, which honestly it does quite a few times after the Pro Farmer Tour, kind of down to that Friday, maybe even Monday, and likes to bounce out of there, and just to do everything that everybody thinks it shouldn't do. That's what markets like to do. So that's what I think we have going on now, but hard to say. China's been in for beans. They need to be in. The USDA's got the bar set really high for demand this year in corn and soybeans. Really, really high. That's good to see, but also it's hard to surprise the market when you already have that in the market. So expect range-bound trading. I think the delivery period in September is going to be fascinating. This is not normal. That's coming up here, I believe, on Friday. And it's not normally a time period where you have to worry about it all. There'll be deliveries, stuff coming out of the south, stuff still maybe coming out of storage, maybe stubborn hands. This year, there's a lot around, more than I've ever seen, more than I've ever heard. And you can see that in the carries. September to December corn, November to January beans. Huge carries, record carries. The carries don't lie. The market's begging guys not to bring it in. And that's really scary to see happening in September. We haven't even got to the heavy delivery time period for the physical bushels. It's something I've never seen. So I can't wait to see how this all plays out. Is it going to be a basis? Is it going to be in cash markets? Is it going to be in futures? Is it going to be a combination of both, all, or everything? No one knows. I've never seen the pipelines this full for real. Of course, on USA's numbers on paper, we always have a huge carryover of some sort, or mostly we have a big carryover. But this one's very real. The numbers feel very real in the USDA's numbers and carryovers. So what happens when you have a whole bunch of bushels in the commercial channels before we even begin the harvest pressure? Well, we're going to find out this year.
I think that's an important point, that this is something, well, you said it, you haven't seen, but highly unusual to have evidently a lot of grain on the farms getting delivered now to make room for the harvest, right? That's the assumption as far as prices, and it's filling.
Yeah, it has everything.
These commercial channels.
Yeah, they want to sell it before they held. They gambled. On the odds were against them from the beginning with the carryovers we had, and then the weather we had early. The odds were against them, and it did not pay off at all. Hanging on to this stuff, and now there's going to be guys folding, because this is where the carry comes into the market and basis. They're worried about basis widening out even more than it already is, which normally does this time of year. And then the carry. It's like if you're going to roll these contracts, you got record carries. It's already bad enough this time of year. And then you throw in records, an extra 10 cents on top of that. Makes for a very difficult market if you're going to try to roll this. Now, if you're just storing it on farm, that's a different story. You still have expenses associated with that. More time, more expense, more loss, more energy, more everything that you need to spend on it. So it's not free even if you have it on the farm at all. shrinkage, everything. I'm at rot. You name it. It's not free to store it at all. So when you have all this coming in, you need to make room. Bins get swept, and it's just a disaster what's happening right now. It'll be interesting to see what the delivery numbers are. You're already hearing bad stories about wheat around here. This is going to be Minneapolis wheat. I heard a guy was offered $1.45. I don't know if it's true. These are where stories come from. This is what you talk about in the cafes and the bars. Yep. You obviously a lot of discounts. You don't know what kind of vomit. You don't know anything, but you just hear the number. I hear another guy, they wouldn't even take his wheat because of the discounts and the problems he had with it. It sounds really scary, but this is just the tip of the spear. This is just starting with Minneapolis wheat here, and it's already bad. So we're going to find out. I mean, I don't have the answer. I'm not saying I know what's going to happen, but we're going to find out in beans and corn. My guess is the guys in the middle make plenty of money, and I don't know that they're going to feel real sorry for people, and I think they're going to want to make more money off this, and it's going to be probably a really nasty time period. But there could be surprises in here. Maybe there's none out there, and it gets discovered here in this delivery time period. I would take the under on that one, though. I would not bet that way. The carries generally don't lie. The market is begging you to store it. And I picked up. Here's a Twitter thing. A better way to rephrase that is the market saying, hey, if you're an end user, it's on sale. Buy all you want. If you wait, you're going to pay 20, 30, 40 cents more. And it's to really get that demand going, saying, just you waiting isn't going to help. And at the same time, it tells the producer, hang on to it because it's a horrible deal for you, and hopefully fixes the short-term way oversupply situation that we have going on right now. So thank you, Twitter. Whoever that was, I can't remember the account. Otherwise, I would give them credit. But they did mention, I think it was a commercial guy, elevator guy, that it's on sale. Come get it, and it has been. I mean, it's been moving pretty good. I know old crop sales were marking your low last week for pretty much everything. New crop sales have been good, but again, back to what the USDA says, they have to be good. The USDA put the bar so high this year. At first, that seems great when you see that in the USDA report, but after it's released, now you got to live up to that, and it's very hard to surprise those markets on the bull side when they already have all that good news built in there. You need to blow away those numbers, and when they're so high, it's hard to do that.
I would hope that we would see some more demand on the exports too. The dollar has been down.
Yeah,
the dollar is down to par, right, or near.
Yep.
And so if we have grain on sale, we have the dollar coming down, that should bring demand in, right? I mean, export demand.
And that's what you need. You got to clean these commercial channels out for any chance. This is going to be hard to bottom this. You can in futures. I'm talking basis, cash or futures all together at once. It's going to be hard to bottom all this until it gets put away, and there isn't any combines rolling except for down south, so we haven't seen any pressure yet. Again, it is futures, and this part of it is they anticipate the pressure. That's why you usually find lows by October in the middle of harvest or going towards harvest. But still, with these commercial channels full like this, it's a unique year. It's different. This time it's different. I'm not.
It's always different.
I'm not going to trade it that way because that's you learn hard lessons saying that. But it actually could be different this time, a little bit on the cash side and basis side. It will have to be for a little bit. But you get that good demand, like you're saying, clean those channels out, and you see what happens when you do get those channels clean. The phone rings. The ethanol plant needs it, and you can come up out of there. So that's what you're looking for here.
Well, I've had a number of calls. I'm sure you have too. Most of my guys have removed their hedges. They've got out of their hedges right now. And they're actually leaning towards re-owning, or they're calling and asking about re-owning.
Yeah, few calls are starting to trickle in, which is totally normal this time of year. You don't have room for storage, or maybe you have some old crop you want to sell and you still don't want to really physically own it, but you want to get involved in the market, or you're worried about basis widening out. There's a lot of different reasons this time of year. Now, when should you re-own it? That's Or is there any strategy? Those are the calls we deal with. Again, call us, and then you can get what we would tell you to do, or at least our advice. We can't really give that out over the podcast just for compliance. But just give us a call. We'll tell you what's going on. But it is a hard market to do that, and bear markets are. It's like, yeah, I want to own this. I'm worried about the basis, and I don't want to own December. I want to own March, and then this conversation happened today, and then we're looking at March Minneapolis wheat, and it's 50 cents, higher than the front right now. So you gotta pay up if you're going to do that. So, trying to find the balance, trying to pick the best contracts. That's where we come in. That's what the conversations are about. Hard in years like this, for sure, to do that, but still you do the best you can and try to figure it out. And there'll be more and more calls, and then courage calls might factor in here, especially for wheat, in my opinion. That'd be the first market I'd be looking at because of all the world events that are going on in the Middle East. Do you buy courage calls? Do you wait on courage calls? What do you do there? What is a courage call? We'll talk about that in a different episode. And then just like I say, the main thing is I got to sell it off the combine. I don't have room, or I need to move it. Do I keep re-owning it? That's the kind of questions that come in this time of year. And this is where knowing basis, knowing where spreads belong, knowing all these contracts are at what time of year, and which one to pick. That's what I was talking about. That can save you a lot of money down the road. You try to do the best you can with the information you have today. But if you don't even know and you're just flying blind, that's where you can lose 30, 40, 50 cents. Where's the smartest contract to be in if an event happens overseas? Where's carry relative to history? When's the optimal time to roll? All these things you should know, or if you don't, you definitely should know somebody. When you call them, they should know immediately. And if you don't, you need to work on that right away.
Those are the factors that you have to weigh in when you're making these decisions, when you're looking at stuff. Especially in a market like this, you just brought up, if you're looking at March Minneapolis wheat, right? 50 cents higher, that's a spread, right? And what is that spread at? I'm not asking you for a number right now, but knowing those things, and is that where it should be? Or is that really, different?
They call it full commercial carry, and it has to do with the interest rates also factor in, and inflational factor in the costs, but I would imagine we're getting close to 90% a lot of this stuff. I don't know the exact numbers. I should. Commercial, that does change. And it gets out there so rarely that it actually is not really a factor. And then you have VSR, which is a whole nother thing. Probably is going to start getting triggered again in Chicago wheat and some of these markets that hasn't been around for a lot of years. Variable storage rates. That's another podcast. We get on these tangents and we can't talk about everything. But that'll probably be talked about in the days ahead, and that's not to the producer's benefit. It's to the commercial's benefit for sure. And that's probably going to be talked about. These are levels that we haven't seen in years, haven't dealt with, and it might start triggering some of that stuff. They changed rules. I know it's on wheat. I believe it's on beans and corn. It's never even got close to that to make that happen. Lots to talk about. Again, you want to, as a learning hedger or even an advanced hedger, continue to want to know more about this. Ask away. Ask questions. That's how you figure it out. Try to figure it out. But these little decisions this time of year can have huge impacts into the springtime. Even before that, it did in 2020. It did in 2021, 2022. The contracts you chose or rolled to, or set basis off of, it made gigantic impacts to bottom lines. And in bulls and bear markets, it matters a lot. This one can go from a bear to a bull, and it would matter a substantial amount if that were to happen, as it did in 2020. So you need to be asking these questions. And again, if you're farming, you don't have time, or you're maybe not even farming, you're just curious on it, ask. And I'd be happy to go over every month relative to the other month. I have all kinds of information on that. I kind of am oddball that I like that, and that's where I kind of specialize in spreads and that stuff. Basis is a different story, but again, I hear a lot in a lot of different areas, so that's something we could talk about. But super important. Has nothing to do with trading here necessarily. has everything to do with your bushels and picking the right contracts.
Well, overall, this kind of been a downer episode. What's the silver lining? What's going good out there?
Corn. After the report, corn. On paper, what are we at? 1.8, 1.9 billion bushels. So the corn carrier was shrinking. And I'm a USDA's numbers guy. I'm not. I didn't say I'm a fan of them. I use them. I could see how they would anger people. Still, it's a tool that you have to use. So you have to go off them, and that's the numbers we got right now. So that's a big positive. We're actually shrinking the crop. I still find it hard to believe with what's out there in the field, but still, you have to use those numbers. So that's without a doubt the best news out there. Wheat, lots going on in the world. French wheat's not good. That's a very, very close direct competitor to us. So those are the two markets that I'm watching is wheat and corn. And I'm also watching the wheat and corn spread. That's something that I got involved in today too. Again, I'm not going to tell which side or what leg where. You have to call for that stuff because we can't put it on the air. It's not that we wouldn't, and I still wouldn't. I think that's cheesy when people do that. It's a one-on-one sort of talk, but
another note on that. Another reason to not put it on a podcast is that's today.
Yeah,
you might listen to this podcast. Even it might change by 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah, and you have to be that flexible in the markets. And I'm not saying getting in and out, but that's why I'm not a big newsletter fan, not a one-size-fits-all, because things change really fast. And you want to be in direct contact with the guy that you're telling to do something or recommending it. Generally, my recommendations I like to have on my own account. Of course, if I don't have anything to hedge, I'm not hedging corn I don't have. Right. So it's interesting. Those are the two markets I'm focusing on. There's 3-week classes. There's a lot of spreads within those 3-week classes that I like. And also the corn, wheat, and then corn by itself, wheat by itself. I think corn's got a lot of heavy lifting, though, with the physical side of what's coming in. Even if the carryout's shrinking, I don't like the short term at all, where all these bushels are going to go. Hopefully they find a home right away, and I'm totally wrong, and it bottoms way early. But that's the big headwind for corn. But beyond that, once the bin door gets locked, that's numbers that I like. But I hate to go back to the negative. It's the bar set real high for corn. We got to see that moving. So you get a sharp rally, and then all of a sudden those numbers don't work anymore. So you just want to find that balance, start working your way higher. Corn and wheat, and then beans have a lot of bad news. Beans have a way of changing quick. So short term, without a doubt, it's a lot of bad news. But we should see very good demand in soybeans right now. And we have been. And it's got to continue a lot more. And that should happen. So that's all positive. Mostly, that was 95% positive.
That was the most positive I've heard.
That's a high percentage in a bear market, a very high percentage. It's the DTN bulls and bears. I know that's gotten a little thin on the bull side of stuff. That'd be a hard letter to write, in the short term. But I tried to do it there. That was good for me.
Yeah, I was impressed. Well, anything else you want to add today, John? Or
no, I mean if you guys want to hear about any topic, we have endless amounts to talk about. That's not the gift of gab is what we have here for sure. So make sure if you have something you want to hear about, you mentioned, and we'll talk a whole episode about it or 3/4 of it. I can't promise that I can get to 95% positive on the news again anytime soon, but I feel good that I did that. Any topic, anything that you guys want to hear about. And I would like to hear also cash stories. I'm very interested in that, or cash horror stories or offers that are ridiculous or anything interesting. $1.45 I heard in Minneapolis wheat. I have no idea if that's true or not. Sounds true. But more of that. I like to get a feel of what's going on where too. So don't be afraid to chime in.
Yeah, you can send us an email at hedgeheadspod@gmail.com, or you can reach John at
218-731-1578.
Thanks, John.
Yep. there's warning signs everywhere still that, and for the guys that don't believe the bushels are out there, you can't fake the carry.